So yes, by the year 1400 or so, Florence no longer even had fashion national style. Every man dressed as he pleased. And small things like this, I repeat, indicate what development of individual means. If it means anything, it's that he's different from others, unique. Hopefully that this uniqueness is significant or interesting, or bears something of personal mark, personal individual developed character, somehow bears stamp of it. And you see also somehow larger than life characters already exist in Italy by the 1200s, whereas before and also in North Europe not so much are recorded, but around that time, or even in some cases 1100s, there are popular stories about great jurists even and such. In the Middle Ages, man was generally conscious of himself as a member of a collective, whether a family, a race, a corporation, a people, a faction even, and so on. All this obscurity of individual consciousness made possible by a mythic delusion, a veil that hung over the individual and the state and made objective consideration of both impossible. In the words of Borgia, the veil was woven of faith, illusion, and childish prepossession, through which the world and history were seen clad in strange hues. And this veil dissolved first in Italy, and primarily because of political developments there. Again, its effects were visible even in individuals not otherwise notable in history. There are always mention of great kings and such, but I talk here, for example, of a great writer, a great artist, and so on, who were mostly anonymous before the 1200s and such, but thereafter you start see excitement, especially in Italy, about their sparkling personalities, because they become unafraid to seem and be different from their neighbors, to assert their own unique sphere and such. Even merchants, yes. Nietzsche again has very beautiful passage on just this regarding Genoa. I may have read it to you before, and if I repeat, if you remember it now while I repeat it, I apologize. But it's such a nice passage. It gives such good local color of Italian Renaissance way, of Italian Renaissance spirit. I must read it for you now. Genoa. I have looked upon this city, its villas and pleasure grounds, and the wide circuit of its inhabited heights and slopes for a considerable time. In the end, I must say that I see countenances out of past generations. This district is strewn with the images of bold and autocratic men. They have lived and have wanted to live on. They say so with their houses, built and decorated for centuries and not for the passing hour. They were well disposed to life, however ill disposed they may have often been towards themselves. I always see the builder, how he casts his eye on all that is built around him far and near, and likewise on the city, the sea, and the chain of mountains, how he expresses power and conquest with his gaze. All this he wishes to fit into his plan, and in the end make it his property by its becoming a portion of the same. The whole district is overgrown with this superb, insatiable egoism of the desire to possess and exploit. Individualism, yes, the real individualism. I interjected to say that. And as these men, when abroad, recognize no frontiers, and in their thirst for the new, place the new world besides the old, so also at home everyone rose up against everyone else, and devised some mode of expressing his superiority and of placing between himself and his neighbor his personal illimitableness. Everyone won for himself his home once more by overpowering it with his architectural thoughts, and by transforming it into a delightful sight for his race. When we consider the mode of building cities in the north, the law, the general delight in legality and obedience, this impose upon us. We thereby divine the propensity to equality and submission which must have ruled in those builders of the north. Here, however, on turning every corner you find a man by himself, who knows the sea, knows adventure, and knows the Orient, a man who is averse to law and to neighbor, as if it bored him to have to do with them, a man who scans all that is already old and established with envious glances. With a wonderful craftiness of fantasy, he would like, at least in thought, to establish all this anew, to lay his hand upon it and introduce his meaning into it, if only for the passing hour of a sunny afternoon, when for once his insatiable and melancholy soul feels satiety, and when only what is his own and nothing strange may show itself to his eye. Yes, isn't that beautiful? And it appears in everything you read about that period. Exactly that, this desire, even of men not known to history now, of what you might call middling men of history, maybe a great merchant whose name has not come down, but to distinguish themselves against their neighbor. Genoa, yes, a place of commerce, by the way. Nietzsche, the critic of commerce indeed, not quite. Excuse for tangent, but it's worth remarking how anyone can think that someone who believes that places like Renaissance Florence and Genoa or archaic Greece, which was also a heavily commercial society where men went on ships around the Mediterranean exploring, looking for markets, for colonies and such, how can you think somebody like that has some absolute principle against commerce? It's simply that economic life is not that important as such to him or to me, and that it's rather the subordination of all life to the economic sphere, whether it be capitalist or socialist. That's what's destructive of human flourishing and greatness. I am just tired of academic commie critics of consumerism and so on. What does that mean, consumerism?